This episode is brought to you by FX's The Beauty Official Podcast. Join host Evan Ross Katz on the official podcast for FX's hottest new series, The Beauty, taking you behind the scenes with its amazing stars as they discuss the show's most jaw-dropping moments. Featuring Evan Peters, Anthony Ramos, Jeremy Pope, Ashton Kutcher, Rebecca Hall, Bella Hadid, Meghan Trainor, Isabella Rossellini, Jessica Alexander, and Ari Grainer. Search FX's The Beauty wherever you listen to podcasts.
What does it really take to have your healthiest, best skin at any age? Today, board-certified dermatologist Dr. Doris Day shares the skincare non-negotiables and the smartest non-surgical options to help your skin age beautifully. Stay tuned. Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara, and this is Age Better. This episode is part of our monthly mini-series, The Road to 70, where I invite top experts to guide me and you toward our next decade with confidence, curiosity, and a healthy dose of optimism. Last month, my guest was orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist, Dr. Jocelyn Wittstein, who talked us through the essentials of bone and joint health. And next month, my guest will be the one and only Laura Geller, who is truly the queen of QVC and one of the best makeup artists in the world. An absolutely wonderful, wonderful human. This month, we're talking all things skin. And one of my favorite guests is back, board-certified dermatologist Dr. Doris Day. She's known for her practical, science-backed approach to helping skin look and be its best at every age. We talk about what it really takes to have healthy, glowing, resilient skin by the time I turn 70 next year. Next year. From daily must-dos to advanced non-surgical options that actually work. You can learn more about Dr. Day and her recommendations in the show notes. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the Age Better cheat sheet on Substack for recaps, links, and my favorite takeaways from this episode. You'll find the link in today's show notes. Lastly, do you have a topic you really want me to cover? Send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out on social media. Okay, everyone, get ready to age better. Dr. Day, welcome back to Age Better.
Thanks for having me back. Always great to be on with you.
Oh, it's so fun. You've been on several times. And I also want to let the listeners and the viewers know that you and I go way back to about, I want to say 2008, when I first met you and I interviewed you for my very first book, The Best of Everything After 50. Isn't that crazy? And here we are.
Crazy.
Today, we're talking about getting Barbara ready to turn 70 in a year. Isn't it? It's just like, mind is blown.
I think you can keep it better. Honestly, it's amazing that how much we can do so that every decade can be our best. And I think you epitomize that both in how you take care of yourself and also how you help everyone else understand what this journey really means and how it could be a positive, healthy, happy occurrence.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, I'm all about positive aging and healthy aging. And so today we're going to be talking about skin. And this is part of a mini series that I'm doing about getting Barbara ready for 70 in a year. And everyone, very soon, I don't know exactly when the date is, but I'll have someone that Dr. Day knows very, very well, also Laura Geller, who is going to help us do the makeup part of our skin. So that'll be really, really fun too. So, also wanted to give the listeners a little bit of a kind of context here about my own personal complaints about my skin. Of course, my skin is dry. I never went on hormone therapy.
I want to hear what you love.
What do I love? Okay. Well, because thanks to you, Dr. Day, thanks to you, when I hit 50 and then I met you and wrote the book and everything else that happened after that, that's when I started using a retinol product. So I do believe that my skin would be a heck of a lot worse had I not listened to you and started wearing A, retinol every night or like every other night until my skin got used to it, and then B, a lot of sunscreen on my skin, no matter what it is outside, cloudy, nighttime, I always have sunscreen on my skin. and on my hands, and that's something else too. So
And
I
the
really
neck.
do know, and my neck, and I really do, we're just covered up today because it's so cold, but I really do believe that all of that has helped me. So I do love, my skin looks actually pretty okay.
There you go.
The things that bother me, that just bother me, or like not enough of surgery and the like, is my crow's feet when I smile, because I smile a lot and I laugh a lot. So like laugh lines, I like to call them. And of course, now I've developed those little lines above my lip, which kind of annoy me a little bit. But really what's annoying me is the red spots. So like I had a biopsy a couple of years ago, and the little red dot is still there, never went away. And it just kind of bothers me. So it's that kind of thing. And I think that I'm not alone. So I believe that my skin complaints are very, very common. And a little
Yes.
laxity,
Mhm.
gravity is kind I see that like a little bit here in my jowl. So there you have it. Let's start with what are the non-negotiables. There are a lot of fun things that we will be talking about that we can think about doing, but what are those things that we must be doing in our 60s to get ready for life beyond?
Such a great question and a great way to frame it. A lot of it, believe it or not, doesn't even start with the skin. A lot of it has to do with getting enough protein and doing resistance training and drinking enough water and having enough joy in your life and looking to be joyful and practice gratitude and just really obvious things that are lifestyle choices. Getting quality sleep over just amount of sleep is really important. And that can relate to some supplements and hormone therapy and other ways to get sleep that are not drug related, but could be supplement or even meditation or other ways to get there. I'm like really right now into vagus nerve stimulation. I'm reading this book called The Great Nerve, and it's all about the
He
vagus nerve.
was my guest. He
He's
can,
amazing.
if you can believe
I ordered
it,
the device.
he was on my show. And it was so long and detailed, our conversation. It was a
Yeah, he's brilliant.
two-parter. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
I'm
Exciting.
halfway through the book. I'm not at part 3 where he talks about treatments yet, but I'm understanding all that it does and even what it does for inflammation and for the skin. So, and sleep quality and mood and everything else. So we're all connected. I don't look at the skin as an organ in isolation. When I look at the skin, people call it holistic or integrative. I call it just being a doctor. I'm taking care of a person. And what I see on the surface not only is reflected by what goes on inside, but also what I do on the surface affects how you age overall. So I start with those things, but then I get to the skin. So what you do for the skin directly is mostly about inflammation and barrier repair and cellular support, which is what I've been focusing on for the past 3 years in a company that I helped co-found called Rapologics. So we had access to this library of molecules that are what are called selective mTORC1 inhibitors. So mTOR is a master regulator of aging, and it's in every cell of the body. So what happens with age and around perimenopause is that that particular protein kinase becomes dysfunctional, which means that your skin cell turnover and repair become dysfunctional, which dysfunctional means not functioning normally. And then you get more collagen breakdown, less of a healthy, intact barrier. And the cells that you're stimulating by using retinols or doing lasers or with sun exposure or stress, they get exhausted and they get depleted. So now you could do all these things to the skin, but if the cells that are making collagen and elastin are exhausted and depleted, they can't make collagen and elastin. So I see women as they get older tell me that things that they did before are not working as well.
Mhm.
So what I started working on is how to regulate that process to help age the cells called fibroblasts that are exhausted, age younger. And what we found is that if you can selectively block one of the pathways that mTOR drives, called mTORC1, if you can selectively block that, you have better repair. And we found that we can make those 56-year-old fibroblasts, that's just the age we tested, age back to 23-year-old fibroblasts.
Wow, that's crazy.
Exactly. And when you use it with retinol, it works even better. When you use it with lasers, it works better. So now I started doing a couple of things. In my patients, once they hit perimenopause and menopause, I back off of higher intensity products like prescription retinol or prescription retinoic acid. I use more retinol, retinaldehyde, other forms of retinols that are not prescription quality but are precursors to it. and I add in this new product called ReQ, or RLX-201 is the molecule, and we find that they get better results. I do lasers like CO2 laser to deliver actives. So I use products that are combination cocktails of exosomes and growth factors and stem cells and specific nutrients for the skin. And that helps nourish the skin with less energy. So the intensity, you don't need as high intensity of everything. You need the right intensity, but you need to deliver actives because our skin at this age is not making it in the same way. And now I'm just starting a clinical trial on topical estradiol on the face, and we're doing something called epigenetic testing. So what we do is we do a swab of the skin, and then this company called Mitra Bio that's asking for the study is going to do the testing to show whether or not you actually see cellular changes that is going to make a difference and if it's really worth doing. Because everybody wonders and we ask, and should we use a vaginal one topically? Should we get it compounded? What should we do? And we're all just guessing, but I want data. So we're going to collect data. And then one arm of the study is going to be also adding RLX-201 to see if it has added benefits. So we're going to have actual data on what the epigenetic changes, the functional non-genetic changes, how we can drive genetic changes or genetic longevity, whether or not it even works. We're going to look at
That's incredible. That's really incredible.
So-
and of course, I have been seeing quite a few ads on Instagram, for example, about, I think it's like My Alloy,
Yeah.
the
They're a good
skin
company.
cream.
I like them, actually. I think they do it better than most, and they are solid in asking questions. I've met some of the people from the company, and I'm impressed with their level of scientific rigor. So that's still not quite a peer-reviewed study.
Right.
But you know what? If what I'm doing shows a benefit, that's a fine product to use. And honestly, we know now that the concentration is so low, the systemic absorption is really low. And also, the estrogen receptors in the skin are different than the estrogen receptors in your reproductive organs. So when I say receptors, that's because when you have a hormone is an ingredient that's made in one part of your body, in this case, the ovaries, and it works someplace else. In this case, it's everywhere else. Your brain, your skin, your gut, your joints, you name it, it's your brain, it's everywhere. But for a hormone to work, it has to bind to a receptor. Think of it as a ship going to a docking station. So when you go through perimenopause and menopause, your estrogen levels decline. And once your estrogen levels decline, your receptors also decline. But interestingly, your brain estrogen receptors increase because your brain is so hungry for the estrogen that it wants to grab any estrogen available. Your skin is sacrificing so your brain can get. Your skin's always sacrificing for every other organ system because your skin is resilient, it can recover. So the other thing I want to test is if when we add topical estrogen, we're doing different ages, we're doing perimenopause and postmenopause. We want to see that once your estrogen receptors have declined, can we reactivate them by adding topical estrogen? So
I love this.
we're gonna find this out. And once I have the data, we're just starting the study like this month. And then once we have data, I'll report back. But I want to know if what I'm doing is making a difference. So with RLX-201, for example, we have so much basic science data because it's a novel molecule. The molecule didn't exist. We had to get an INCI label. We had to do a whole bunch of like millions of dollars worth of basic science testing to show that this is a real molecule, that it's safe, that it doesn't have systemic effects. And then we had to do studies to show what the benefits are in the skin and make sure it doesn't do harm. So it's a big, very expensive process. I don't own the company. I'm just a co-founder. It's the people who invested the $13 million that we used to create the product who are the things. But it's an incredible
undertaking. It sounds huge.
undertaking.
If you need another person for the postmenopausal group, I'm available.
Yeah, actually, you're perfect. Call us. We'll get you in it because we're really just still collecting names. So
yeah. Okay. Well, let me know.
Yeah,
Because I'm
I'll
very
send you
intrigued. In fact, I had put it out on social media that I was meeting with you and recording this episode, and everyone's very intrigued. Of course, skin is so important. And that was one of the questions that came up is like, what about putting estrogen on the face? So thank you for that. I do have a few more listener questions. Here's one. and I actually want to know this too, because I have one. I got it for my birthday last year. Do red light therapy masks, the LED lights, do they actually do anything? And are they worth doing?
I think so. I prefer a whole body versus just the face, but doing the face does help as well. The wavelength of about 630 nanometers is FDA cleared for the skin. So it does work. The issue is how much should the device cost and which are good. I do like the one from Current Body. I think there's some other good ones.
That's what I have. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. My daughters chose it. I mean, they should have
Good
consulted with you
daughters.
first, but
Yeah.
that's what they got, Current Body, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
very
like
happy
that
with it
one.
so far.
And the thing is that you're doing it with faith that you're having a benefit. The problem is we all want to see these before and afters, and it isn't about that. Even with the molecule I'm talking about, it's a cellular longevity molecule. It's no longer about before and afters. Now it's about cellular longevity and repair. So what the red light is doing is it's helping with that. It's helping with repair, lowering inflammation, which means that over time, your skin will have more resilience. But we're so honed into before and afters. That's why I put some before and afters on my social media. But all we do when we see a lot of before and afters is we become critics and we start analyzing and hyper-analyzing. And that's not the point. The point is that you should age well, have healthy skin.
Yes.
And one thing I really want to focus on that you brought up that's such an important topic to cover is the upper lip lines that bother you.
Yeah, they do. And that was also a listener question. In
Good.
fact, it was, what are the safest and most effective fillers? I mean, she's assuming that fillers is the way to go for those vertical lines above your
Yes.
lip.
Perfect. It's a great question. So the way to address that is combination therapy. The one thing I've learned over close to 30 years of practice, I'll probably stay always close to 30 years because after a while you're like, God, that's a long time. What are you doing? But is that it's almost never one thing to take care of the problem. It's
Right.
almost always a combination. So it's topicals with retinols, RLX-201, some antioxidants like peptides, exosomes, all of that I like. Sun protection, so important. All of that's critical. But then it's analyzing, why do you have the upper lip horizontal lines? Most of the time, it's because there's a little bit of an overbite or overhang of the teeth over the lower teeth, the upper teeth over the lower teeth. But even when you don't have a clear overbite, what happens to all women as we age is that your jawbone, called the mandible, that's also your chin, shrinks and recedes. So that means that your chin is now back and your upper lip is naturally over from where it used to be when you're younger. So every time you go to close your mouth, you're puckering just a little bit. And you can't help it. Your resting position is a little bit of a pucker. And then when you push your lips together to keep your mouth closed, you pucker harder. And that repetitive motion plus estrogen depletion, which means that you're not making collagen as well, leads to those lines that then become deeper and deeper, because once you have a line, it becomes weaker at the bottom of the wrinkle than at the top. It becomes a path of least resistance. And every time you move into it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then there you have those lines. So before I put anything on the upper lip, I start with skincare. Sometimes we do lasers to try to improve the etched in lines. We do soft wave, which builds collagen and helps plump, tighten, and lift the skin without injecting anything. It doesn't melt fat, doesn't cause fibrosis. And then I do fillers in the chin and sometimes the lower lip as well. Then I'll use a very soft filler. The only product I use for the upper lip itself or above the upper lip for that area is called Redensity, RHA Redensity, by a company called Revance. In Europe, the product is called Teoxane. That's the line. But here it's RHA Redensity. So it's very soft, very flexible. I use a cannula to inject. So I come in from the corner and then I go across. I don't go into each line individually because I think that can get bumpy. But I go across and I create a scaffolding of support under the skin. And if, let's say, the syringe has 10 as a unit of like the whole syringe, I'll use 1 to 2. So 0.1 to 0.2 cc's. It's almost no product. And then you just blend it. So this product doesn't tend to get lumpy. It doesn't add bulk or weight. It doesn't make the upper lip heavy. And then once I adjust the lower lip and the chin. I put very little in the upper and sometimes along the nasolabial folds, the lines that go from the corner of the
Yep.
nose to the
Yes,
corner
I
of the
have
mouth.
deep ones too.
Yep.
I like to say it's because I smile so much.
Well, you have a beautiful smile and you should always smile and you have gorgeous teeth. But sometimes you have to look at the whole face. Some people can have volume depletion in the cheeks or in the lateral cheeks closer to the ears. So adding filler there is not going to give a lift and make your upper lip lines better. Fillers don't lift, but they create projection. So it's lifting out, not up.
Not
So
up.
the
Okay.
angle at which I put in the filler can create an optic of a lift. I call that an optical lift, which looks lifted and it feels better. And sometimes you do get some lifting, but if somebody wants a lift, they need to get a surgical lift.
A
What I
surgical
do is
lift.
I
Okay.
create balance and blend. But I will tell you that even after a facelift, it's not going to do anything for the upper lip lines. Upper lip lines need your dermatologist, need filler, need lasers, need other remedies.
It's so funny what you said before. It's like a resting face. If you have that already, it'll show, it'll be more pronounced. And I see that with me. If I catch myself in the
Yeah.
mirror, just resting face, there they are. And so I've made another habit, which I tend to do anyway, because I'm a happy person, is I'll just have a little bit of a smile on my face and it completely gets rid of them.
Totally.
But,
And you'll notice, like in every image, I am never keeping my lips together. They're always a little bit apart and always in an almost smile, but not quite smile. Because years and years ago, I watched so many women pucker as they age. So I looked in the mirror, found an expression that doesn't look silly. And
right,
I
because you don't want to
memorized
look
what
like a crazy person.
and I memorize that expression and I try to hold it. And it definitely helps me not get upper lip lines because I haven't put filler there.
Yeah,
Now I'm
no,
looking at
same here.
myself to see
So,
if I
okay, another listener question was about sunscreen. What do we use? SPF number, mineral versus chemical, any special ingredients? I've been reading something about how we know already that Europe has a superior choices in sunscreen, correct? And so, but some of it is now going to be FDA approved. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
what should we be looking for right now that is available to us? And then she also wanted to know about, is it broad spectrum or what should we get?
Everything's a chemical. So when the people say mineral versus chemical, what they mean is like zinc and titanium versus the absorbed ones.
Okay.
Actually, they're all even absorbed, but the mineral ones reflect the light better than the absorbed ones. They're absorbing the light. And that's the main difference. So I always think use what you like using. Whatever you're going to use will make me happy. I would say a minimum of SPF 30. I prefer 50 to 30. The way I apply sunscreen is I start in the morning before I get dressed. I put it on my neck going in an upward direction. Then I do the face and then I do a second layer right away. So I put 2 layers on first thing in the morning because the difference between American and European sunscreens is in America, sunscreens are regulated by the FDA as a drug. In Europe, they're regulated as cosmetics. So they don't have this safety data that the US requires. And I think there's something about animal testing that the FDA requires that Europe doesn't do. So I think we're going to get rid of some of those animal testing requirements, and then it'll make it easier for some of the European companies to get their sunscreen ingredients here. Now, ones that are absorbed, like the Tinosorb 80, which is in Europe, which would come here, I have a feeling once they get here, people are going to start complaining about them too. So definitely you have more broader UV filters in Europe than we have in America. And we used to think that it was just UVB that was causing the damage. So we have 2 basic wavelengths of light that reach the Earth, A and B. So B causes burning. So when you see the SPF label, that's relating to UVB. UVA is about 90% of the light that reaches the Earth. So from sunrise to sunset, as long as you don't need a flashlight to see outdoors, there's UVA. UVA doesn't build up heat, but it's a longer wavelength, so it goes right through the skin and it breaks down collagen. So we used to say A for aging, B for burning, but now we know that both of them cause damage to the skin that ultimately leads to skin cancer. So blocking UVA rays became stronger or more desirable as we understood more about what these rays were doing. The problem is because UVA rays don't build up heat in the same way, there's no SPF number that applies to UVA.
Oh.
So you
Okay.
just have to look for broad spectrum. Now they're coming up with metrics and grades to measure UVA protection. And most of the sunscreens that you see out of Europe have better UVA or better broad spectrum protection. Now we know that even some visible light can cause some damage as well. So they're adjusting the filters, the wavelengths of light with these different filters. And what's going to come from Europe is going to be broader spectrum and maybe longer lasting. But there's always going to be somebody who complains about absorption or endocrine disruption or something else with these products.
I personally have been using, and really you recommended it years ago to me, is CeraVe. CeraVe moisturizer,
Yep.
like daily moisturizer. It had 30, now it has SPF 50.
Yep. I love CeraVe. Aven has a great sunscreen. And also La Roche-Posay, their Pure Mineral SPF 60 is fantastic.
Fantastic. That's what I use when I'm going really outdoors, like to the beach or so.
Yep. So the only thing is, if you're using a mineral sunscreen, it's a suspension, not a solution, which means that when it sits, it can unmix a little bit. So you always should shake it before you apply it.
Okay, thank you for that. And I do have someone, she had a follow-up question. She goes, I wear sunscreen head to toe. She's very fair.
Good.
And yet I have age spots all over. What the heck?
Okay. Well, what the heck is right? It's so morally wrong. But the reality is two things. One is you could put on all the sunscreen in the world. It's never going to block 100% of UV rays. Even SPF 100 put on the way it was meant to in the lab, which nobody does, is not going to block 100% of UV rays. You're still going to get some sunlight getting through. And if you're very fair, you're going to get some spots. The second is it takes 20 to 30 years for those spots to show. So if you had sun exposure and you weren't as diligent in the past, some of those are just coming out from time and just their development over time. What I do when I go in the sun is I wear UV protected clothing.
So do I. In fact, I use a line called Line in the Sand.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
it's excellent. Yeah, excellent.
And I also like Watt's Skin, WATS, Watt's Skin.
WATS, Watt
Yeah,
Skin.
she
Okay.
has such beautiful designs. They're light, they're pretty, they're durable. And I'm not sure why she created the line. I don't know if there was a family history, but it's a woman created company and her sense of style is incredible.
I'll put a link in the show notes to both A Line in the Sand, and the founder, the CEO and founder, has been a guest on the show about 2 years
Great.
ago.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And she did have cancer. And also all of the proceeds goes to protect the oceans.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful.
yeah, no, it's a wonderful story and also
Love
very
that.
stylish. And also put a link to Watts. So everybody wants to know, how do you layer skincare products? So like morning and night, if you could give us a quick rundown of, again, non-negotiable products that we really all should be using at this age and stage, and how do we layer them?
Love it. So in the morning, if you are not so motivated, you could just rinse with water. You don't necessarily.
That's what I do.
Yeah, you don't
Cold,
necessarily
ice
have to
cold water.
cleanse.
Mhm.
Yep. Perfect. That's in the morning because you're just really removing whatever's left from the night. Then I like a vitamin C cream or serum. And then because that gives you added UV protection. Then I like an active, whether it's an exosome or an anti-redness product. And then your sunscreen moisturizer. You could do sunscreen and moisturizer as long as it's a 30 and as long as you apply enough.
Sorry to interrupt you. If you use a sunscreen that's not a moisturizer, a sunscreen and then a separate moisturizer, which comes first?
I don't think it really matters. I'll go back and forth. I like to put the sunscreen on first, but some people put the sunscreen on top because they say if you put the moisturizer on, if you put the sunscreen, then the moisturizer, you're going to dilute the sunscreen. So I think as long as you apply both, it doesn't matter, but always do a double layer. But you could moisturize and then put sunscreen on top. I
Okay.
say that more than anything is moisturize and then sunscreen. So this way your sunscreen would have the last level, so you know you're not going to rub it off. And then in the evening, that's when you do a proper cleanse. And you can use a cream cleanser, a milky cleanser, once in a while an exfoliating cleanser, but you don't want to over exfoliate or strip your skin. So if your skin is super red, or if when you apply products after they sting or burn, that means you've overdone it.
Okay.
So just be careful what you apply to how much you exfoliate. I think exfoliation is great, but not overdoing it. And then you'll apply, in my case, the cellular repair product, which would be the RLX-201 or ReQ, then your retinol, and then your moisturizer at night. It's super, super simple. I don't necessarily use exosomes twice a day. I think in the morning with the vitamin C is good. And at night, I just like a simple moisturizer, active, then retinol, then moisturizer. And that's it.
And what's the scoop on peptides? This is somebody else question from another listener who really is hearing so much about it lately. Is that important to include in our products?
Yeah, peptides are helpful. That's going to be in your morning routine. You could also include it in your night routine. So peptides are just groups of protein. They're just series of amino acids that make protein. That could be dipeptides, tripeptides. There's a whole bunch of different ones. It doesn't really mean that much. It's a matter of what the data is on that product and when it should be used. So it's in a lot of products right now. Olay has had peptides in their products since the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
you look at people who use Olay over decades, I think of them as like the OG of peptide creators
I love Olay.
in marketing. Yeah, it's a great brand. I've done a lot with them over the years, less lately, but the Olay Pro X was a great line for more mature skin and drier skin. But now it's in just about everything. And basically, it's another form of an antioxidant. So when you see exosomes, those contain peptides. When you see a lot of moisturizers, they contain peptides. And then there are some that are added. So you can use a moisturizer at night that has added peptides, and that's plenty.
Perfect. Okay, let's go to the crow's feet that I mentioned that I have. And I've had them for years. And I laugh a lot. I smile a lot. It's also a little genetic. My mom had that too. Botox is really the only thing that can help that, as well as treatment, skincare treatment, as you said before, with the lines above the lips, or what do you suggest?
Well, it depends. So any wrinkle comes from two things: repetitive motion and collagen breakdown. So smiling, I think of smile lines as sparkles. They're pretty. So once they become like fireworks, or they're still there at rest, when you stop smiling, you still have the lines and they sort of creep down the face. Yeah, Botox is great at treating that, but you have to do it carefully, because if you've had eyelid surgery, you can end up with a little bit of puffing under the eyes that has to do with lymphatic flow. So you have to be careful, and you don't want to drop your smile. If you go too low around the eyes, that can also drop the smile. So you have to be a little bit careful. And the idea is not to eliminate the lines, because then you don't look authentic. If you smile and you have no movement, people don't actually know that you're happy. So unfortunately, when these products or ingredients or drugs get FDA approved, they have to pass a scale. And the scale goes from nothing to a lot. And to get the FDA to say, yeah, you really made a difference, they have to have a certain amount of reduction. And they want to go from a lot to almost nothing. And that's how they get FDA approved. So usually the FDA approvals are trying to eliminate all movement, and then that's how they get promoted. So done properly, in my view, all of these neuromodulators, because now we have 5. Botox was the first, then we had Dysport, now we have Jeuveau, we have Daxxify, and we have Latibo. So we have a whole bunch of them available now, and I have all of them. I use different ones on different people for different things. But what I find is that when you do it properly, you can still move, especially if you try to move, but you move in a more authentic way. So I said there's 3 kinds of movements that people have. One is your natural resting face. You actually use muscles to create no expression, oddly enough, right? And that changes depending on your bone structure, your skin health, your mood, your pain level, whatever you're going through. Then you have animation. That's when you naturally animate. That's the main one that I look at. Your resting and your natural animation. The third one, which annoys me that people check when they're checking to see if the Botox or neuromodulator worked, is the animation on command. That means that when I say smile, how do you smile? People exaggerate that movement.
Exaggerate, like really squint, like you don't really do that, but they're doing it for you.
Exactly. Or they still raise their brows really hard and they go, I can still move. But the reality is, of course you can, and you should if you try.
Oh my gosh, are there people who actually come in and don't want to move?
Yes. And I have people who come in and can't move, and they say
Oh.
that I can still move. I go, you're moving your eyeballs. That's the only thing moving. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
I'm sure you've seen it all.
I have. And I don't judge anybody. I'm here to just give people information and help them sort of get to that place of balance and to see their beauty, right? To see what they love about themselves and to help celebrate and enhance their best features. But a lot of times it's explaining that I want to redirect the energy, not take away the ability to move. But it does really help for those crow's feet to soften them and to make your smile authentically beautiful without creeping down your face. And then we combine it with skincare. Retinols do help. Sometimes laser resurfacing, soft wave to strengthen the skin itself.
And those are two different things. I mean, soft wave am I right? Soft wave is not a resurfacing laser. Am I correct?
No. Soft wave has no downtime.
No downtime. Okay.
No, it uses ultrasound energy in synchronous parallel layers. It doesn't melt fat. It doesn't cause fibrosis or scarring under the skin. It simply improves skin texture and it tightens and lifts. And it's one of the things that I do that people come back consistently and they say, this really works. I'm so happy I did it. But nothing is 100% for everybody. So some people need more treatment. It also managed based on your expectations as well. But people are happy with it and they keep coming back and sending their friends. And so that's a really good sign for me that it's doing something. I've had 8 of them and I do it every 6 months, but I find that it really does help.
Okay. And I know you have to get back to your patients, but people really want to know about laser, about, resurfacing. Who is really a candidate for, I think it's the CO2, but there are others as well, right? Other treatments.
There's a whole series of them.
There's a series.
Yep, there's CO2, there's erbium, there's thulium. I often combine it with broadband light or intense pulse light first to help with the redness. Like the redness you were talking about, that's the best for that is intense pulse light.
Oh, that little spot on my cheek that really bothers the heck out of me.
Yep, a pulse dye laser or broadband light could take care of that. But then the resurfacing lasers.
Yeah, who's the candidate for that, really? Because not everybody is, right?
Not everybody, but a lot of people are.
By the time they've lived to 69, as I have.
With the right skincare, right?
Who used to put the baby oil mixed with iodine and then use the reflector.
I never once did that. I don't even know how people learned how to do that.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's so
bad. It was all peers. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
The fairer your skin, the lighter your skin, the better. Even if you have thin skin, you just adjust the energy and the way it's delivered. And some people will need more than one. It's safer on the face than it is on the neck. You really have to have somebody who knows how to control the energy. And when I do it, I combine it with very specific topicals. I don't just say put Vaseline on or Aquaphor afterwards and just go heal. We have a whole protocol that we do before, right on top, and then at home after to amplify the benefits and to reduce the downtime. It's really 1 week of downtime. So the more fair your skin, the better a candidate you are just as a whole. But depending on which laser we're using, we can go to darker skin tones very carefully. But usually what we call Fitzpatrick skin type 3 or 4 is a limit to where I'll go. So somebody who can burn, but who can still tan a little bit, that's where you know you're a good candidate. If you never burn and always tan, then you're not a good candidate. You're the ideal.
I burn and can sometimes tan. Mm-hmm,
exactly.
For sure.
That's the ideal candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a skin type 1, 2.
1, 2. Okay.
So once you hit skin type 5, 4, 5, then it's a little trickier.
Okay. And all of this information is on your website.
Yes.
By the way, everyone, I will be putting a link to Dr. Day's website, of course, in the show notes. Please take a look. But also, you should, if you don't already follow her on Instagram, you've got to start following her on Instagram. And you're very informative and very detailed, and you give great tips, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I watch everything, and I really do pay attention. And every once in a while, you do a little before and after. That's rare, though, as you said. But I saw one recently, was really amazing, I have to say.
Thank you.
Do you have time for your top 3 biggest takeaways you really want everyone to remember from this talk today?
Yep. One is look at yourself with kind eyes. Always, when you look in the mirror, say something nice. How you talk to yourself and how you see yourself is how the world will see you. So project. I always say I look at myself in the mirror of my mind's eye, and I look just like Raquel Welch. So I don't know what you see, but that's what I'm figuring you're looking at.
You're more beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And then the second is it's really about cellular repair and cellular longevity, especially as you hit your 50s and 60s. And this is the whole new age of medicine. I'm interested in skin longevity and skin repair. So it's not just skincare, it's actually cellular repair. So that's another thing to keep an eye out for because there's a lot to come on this. And then the third is the basics. It's the lifestyle. It's sunscreen, it's diet, it's exercise, it's
Sleep.
sleep for sure, hydration, hormone therapy, whether it's topical or systemic. All of those are really, really important. But your skin both reflects and affects your aging. Your body is one single unit. So you have to take care of all of it. But when you do, it does reward you and you see it in your skin first.
Thank you so much for those tips, and thank you for everything. Thank you so much for this time today, Dr. Day. I know
Thanks for
my
having me.
skin is in excellent hands.
Thank you. Mwah.
Okay, and everyone, thank you for tuning in. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then, subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.